What is up, guys, and welcome back to another Odd Popcorn for That review. I'm Chris,
I'm Nick.
and today we are here to talk about the new 2023 horror film, The Boogeyman. So, this was directed by Rob Savage, and it's based on an old short story from Stephen King, but it was adapted for screenplay by Scott Beck, Brian Woods, and Mark Hyman. Uh, and it stars Sophie Thatcher, Chris Messina, Vivian Lyra Blair, and David Dastmalchian. So we both just saw this. Kind of first reaction. What did you think about this movie coming out of the theater?
I didn't like it at all. It felt like a movie I've seen 1,000 times. It was just like, two girls in a house, there's a scary monster. It they're like all the jump scare, that's all it is jump scares. There's no feeling of like ominous feeling. Even when they try to have it, I feel like it's not there. But all the jump scares they basically show in the trailer for the movie, and then like maybe two or three others that didn't have any effect anyways, for me at
Thankfully, I
least.
didn't see this trailer a whole bunch beforehand. Like I watched one intentionally just to see because it really wasn't on my radar too much. It's not like the title of this movie doesn't sound. I just think that's like the most generic title for a horror
Yeah.
movie you could ever have. It's like embarrassing to say that title.
The
I don't know.
the trailers definitely made it seem like it was going to be better than it was, which I have a soft spot for Stephen King.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean any like all of the his adaptations have been good either. Like there's plenty of his
Well, and this is
adaptations
a
that aren't.
this is a very short story. I'm
Was
told.
it one of the
Like
ones that he probably like sold? Because I know he sells them for like $1 to aspiring screenwriters and stuff. Maybe I wonder if that was one of them.
no, I think it's a little more well. I mean, it's like known. It's
Okay.
shown up in like books that compile a bunch of his short stories, but there's not much there. Like that, there's the bones of something. Well, they took that and used it as scaffolding to build this around, but there's not much there. They took a lot of liberty with this and made and I without reading that, I don't want to assume anything, but I'm sure. Well, no, I don't want to assume anything, but
Yeah.
they took a lot of liberty with it for sure because there wasn't much of a story there.
And
It was very short.
I will say, although the movie, I think the movie was bad. I do think the acting was pretty good for who like, cause the dad, I can't remember the actor's name now, but he's like in a
Chris Messina.
oh yeah, Chris Messina, and he's like in a ton of stuff right now. He was just in Air. He played the lawyer.
He was great on that.
Yeah, and he was great in that. And there's a new show with him and Kaylee Cuoco, which I haven't seen, but looks kind of interesting.
He's on something else too.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's kind of killing it right now.
And then Sophie Thatcher, is that her name?
Hmm.
She's also plays the young version of Natalie in Yellow Jackets, which I think that's a really good show.
Which I have not seen. I need to.
Hmm.
So so you know, uh, I feel a little differently about it than you. I'm
Okay.
I'm a little warmer on it than you. I didn't have a bad time in the theater watching this. It's just when I look back on this, I'm not gonna remember what it was about.
Yeah.
Except, I mean, maybe now that I've made a video about it. But the thing that I'm gonna remember about it is that it pretty much followed the formula, and it did it in the wrong year. In like 2017, it would have actually this probably would have been on everybody's radar in 2017,
Hmm.
and everybody would have really liked it. But there's just stuff that's happened since then. Like horror has kind of become. I don't want to say it's become. It's not any different. It comes in waves and stuff. But like it just really had kind of a. It's been having a moment, Hereditary and Midsummer and It Follows and The Babadook and even stuff like Smile. I don't remember how you feel about Smile, but even stuff like Smile that just came out, I thought they had enough. Even though they were derivative of other things, it was a lot like It Follows meets The Ring meets whatever else. There was a lot of things that made that you could point to and say like that's derivative of other stuff. I still think it had enough of a twist that it made it something. There was something interesting, and the audience spoke with their voted with their dollar on that one, and that movie killed it. Or even Megan, like there's things
Hmm.
about Megan that are a little formulaic. We've been down that road before, but it was enough of a twist on it that people went out and saw it and had a good time with it.
Yeah, and that's why I say I feel like this one just to me I felt like I'd seen it 1,000 times. Like it's the same like movie that like you said the mid 2000s, 2010s.
And,
It just feels exactly the same as any movie that is in this same vein. Like two girls haunted by something in a house, every little scenario is kind of the
Well,
same. Is
and
it in the
the
closet? Is
dead
it in the bed?
parent.
The dead
The
parent.
dead
Wait.
parent is in every movie,
So
dude.
I
Every
guess
movie.
I
Every
guess
movie.
yeah, and I guess we should go ahead and say spoilers now.
Yeah, let's just spoil it right off the bat because
Yeah.
I don't. It's easier to talk about that way, and you're not losing anything. If this sounds great to you, you should stop and watch this. But I don't think you really like if you're on the fence about it and you don't have to go see every horror movie that comes out. You don't really lose anything from not seeing it on a big screen unless you're
Yeah.
just like a real like adrenaline junkie and you love jump scares and they really get you every time and you need that to be on a big giant screen and loudspeakers. But yeah, anyway, it's I. But before I mean, I'm not gonna say my rating right off the bat, but I'll say I'm warmer than you, I'm floating around the middle. So I would
Okay.
say like, you know, it's I don't want to call it. It's not exactly a recommendation, but I'm not saying like absolutely avoid this movie either. You could do a lot worse, and we've seen worse, recently. So
Mhm.
yeah. But so you were saying we should get into spoilers. So what were you
Well,
thinking
just
about?
because you were talking about the dead mom, and I mean it's pretty they pretty much say that right off the bat, so it's not that big of a spoiler. But
Yeah.
I guess the whole thing with the boogeyman, which they kind of explain, is that it goes after people that are sad, basically. So that's why, because I feel like the dead mom part of the plot had nothing to do with it until the little thing at the end, which it came out like kind of came out of nowhere, but it didn't matter anyways. And
Well, yeah.
yeah, so
You you can say
it's
whatever you want.
yeah. I mean, there's a point in the movie where she's watching little seance videos trying to talk to her mom, and it's like the lady's talking about a candle, and she's like, "If you're here with us, move the flame to the left." And at the very end of the movie, she
It does
tries it
do that.
yeah, and she tries it a couple of times throughout the movie with like her mom's lighter, and then it moves to the left. But it's like, what does that matter at all? It was no big point in the movie at
It didn't.
any.
This didn't. What I'm about to say didn't make me like mad at the movie, but I didn't understand like if the boogeyman is basically a grief monster, then
Mm,
two things are a problem with that because one is you can't just like beat that thing to death or shoot it to death. Or you would think not. You would think it would be like very ethereal and it's a metaphysical being
yeah.
only, and bullets don't. I mean, it doesn't. Bullets have nothing to do with this thing.
Well,
It has to
and
do with
yeah.
grief. And if that and also if that's the case, if it is the grief monster, so maybe this is it. Maybe it's not the grief monster, but whatever. If it, I don't get what the tie-in is. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. All that to say, if it's the grief monster, then why would the mom be like fighting? Like she has to step in at the end and fight off the grief monster that her death created.
But it didn't have anything to do with them.
She didn't fight it off.
She
Yeah,
didn't
I don't
fight it
know.
off. Yeah, like they
They just
caught it
like
on
beat it with
fire.
hockey sticks and catch it on fire and
Yeah, and I mean
shoot it a bunch.
it's one of those things that like it seems like it can't be killed because they did shoot it a bunch with shotgun shells in one scene. So it just kind of the movie kind of starts off to where I didn't get the whole grief thing how they explained it because it starts off with like a little baby in a crib and you can hear so when the monster talks it initially kind of sounds like the people from Us, like the voice is all raspy and then
That's what
it's
I was thinking too. It
yeah,
sounds like the people on Us. Yeah.
and then it kind of takes and then it mimics a parent or a sibling or something and it's just like a baby and then the baby starts screaming and then it shows a picture and then blood hits the picture. So if it's a grief monster, this family that it initially attacks didn't have any grief that we know of. It just killed a baby and then they had grief and then you find out later that
Oh,
it
I see
killed
your
the other
problem.
two. Yeah, like this for all it seemed this initial family that it shows in the
D-
beginning and the dad comes to the second family that he passes it on to that we kind of
which
follow
is
through the movie.
which is David Desmalchin is the guy that comes to
Yeah,
our main character dad, Chris Messina. Yeah.
and he's like it it feeds off of grief and stuff and that it killed my two children. It started with the baby and killed my two children, but like why did it go after the baby in the first place if you were a
The
happy family? I don't know. I didn't get that.
I don't know if I expect the movie to have a real reason why that is, but my thought was, and I'm probably giving it more credit than it deserves, but my thought was that the first baby did die of SIDS, like he said to Chris. I can't remember the character's name, unfortunately.
Lester.
Lester. Oh well, Lester's no, but the our main character, or the
Oh,
father character.
Will.
So yeah, when he's talking to Will, he says the first baby died of like crib death or SIDS, and and he's like, maybe that was it. Maybe that was the monster, maybe not. And I think the first one was Sid's, and this was their second child being lost that we opened the movie with, and their second
Well,
one's being killed by
but I
the
don't
the.
I don't think so because when it showed the picture of the family, there were two older siblings. Maybe not. Maybe I am wrong on this, but that's what it
I
seemed
don't know.
like to me.
Yeah,
I'd have to look at it again, I guess. But it definitely
it's
seemed
not the
like they
only.
had three kids. That
It's not the only problem, and I have. Well,
yeah.
how about this? And I don't want to derail anything, but how about this? What are your positives on this movie? Because we're gonna have more negatives to talk about. So what are your positives?
Oh man. I
You
don't
gotta
know.
have a
Like I
couple,
said,
I'm
the
sure.
acting was pretty okay, but both those people I think are good actors. The little girl, I mean, it's just a little girl actor. She is all right. The only
She could have been worse. I've seen a lot
yeah,
worse kid actors. And David
positive.
Dastmalchian's always pretty good.
Yeah, I do like him, but he is a real small role.
Yeah, he didn't really have a whole lot to do here, except I mean, he hangs himself, which is like
Mhm.
sort of or well, we don't know if he hangs himself or he's
It sounded like he got attacked
been
and
been like
hung.
murdered by the yeah.
But I guess the only other positive I can think of is like the design of the Boogeyman, but only I didn't like
Only at
it
the end.
only at the end. Otherwise, it just looked really generic, like a little skull face monster. But
It
like,
kind of looked, how like I watched a video about how like a lot of monsters in modern movies look similar, like they
mhm.
have like similar design features, like. And this was kind of one of my problems. I hate to down on it, like dog on a movie that I did like, but like that was kind of one of my problems with uh, A Quiet Place. Is the monsters kind of just look like,
They look
I
like
don't know, it
kind of
kind
like
of looked like
demigorgons or something from
that's what I was thinking, kind of like a
yeah,
Demogorgon or kind of like a, and this kind of looked like maybe a little more human-ish than those, but it was just a little generic. And then
yeah,
and then at the end, it kind of reminded me. You have seen Smile, right?
yeah.
Smile's the one that ends with like there's that crazy mouthed beast with like 1,000 teeth and all that, right?
Cause Smile is the one that's like a little bit derivative of It Follows, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Anyway, there's like the beast that the end kind of reminded me of that because like the monster got a little more intimidating for a minute, although it does fall into it falls into so many tropes, and one of the tropes it falls into is like our characters it takes its time with like any other character it just kills immediately, but our characters are special somehow, and like it'll take its time killing them. It kind of taunts them, and
Yeah,
when it's got the main girl pinned down, it's like sucking her soul out through her face, which is a pretty common trope that you see a lot.
which I thought
And
that was a cool scene. Just the you're about to say it. I think I'm sorry, but
yeah, the thing that's about to happen is cool, but that like taking its time and like slowly sucking your face one molecule, your soul through your face one molecule at a time, and it's gonna take like 45 minutes to get this done. But every other character is just like dead in a bloody instant, And I don't know, I just that kind of makes me roll my eyes a little bit, but yeah, but its mouth has like arms coming out, like hands and arms coming out of it, and it's like normal resting position, I guess, is like finger teeth kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
but
yeah.
but when it's about to eat a soul, I guess it open like the arms like pry it open really aggressively, and that was the coolest moment of the movie, I think,
Mhm.
besides maybe
Yeah, because when it pulls open, it's like the arms start to come out a little bit, and you can see more, and like you see like this bloody, like skull face inside that's
yeah,
sucking out
yeah.
the soul of the
That
girl.
was a I gotta hand it to him. That was effective. That moment of creature design, not the whole way through, but that moment was cool. And I've seen a lot worse jump scares than this too. And I think there was only like one fake out jump scare. I hate those, but
Mhm.
there were some that were effective. Like it got me, and it's getting you with something that is actually at least visually scary. It's kind of like low hanging fruit. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride. Like, but some people love that, and you could do worse than this. So.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean I can talk some more about the bad stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, let's just talk for a second about the fact that the boogeyman is afraid of light, and he can't do anything around light, right?
Mhm.
Well, well, turn some on. I don't I
I
don't know
mean,
how. Why
yeah.
why why is that so hard?
Unless they
It's
just don't process that it's afraid of light, but I mean every time,
they do.
yeah,
They say it.
yeah.
It was bothering the heck out of me
But just
because
let's keep every light in the house off except for like a little light at the end of the hallway.
because you know the power works, but let's wrap ourselves in Christmas lights that blink, or
Yeah.
let's use you know when we go into so the main characters the daughter character, Sophie Thatcher's character, uh, she goes into the house of David Desmalchin's former house, I guess, and because he's people have assumed he's killed his children, so like we don't even know if it's abandoned. It looks abandoned,
Mhm.
but his wife is still there, and she's just on constant on guard from the boogeyman, and it's like infested their house with sort of this like black growing like vine like mold situation. It's like maybe that's the grief. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not. I don't know. I don't want to theorize about it forever. Uh, but uh, when we meet her, like her house, I was thinking like the power must be out because there's candles everywhere.
Mhm.
But then she's got like I can't remember what that's called, but like the kind of lighting, you know, like
Yeah,
on
just
a
like
tripod that you
standing
use at like a
lamps.
construction site or something like
Yeah.
that. So that's plugged into something. So she's got electricity to run those, but there's no lights anywhere else, and all upstairs is just candles all over the floor, like 1,000 candles, like the worst fire hazard I've ever seen. I mean, I know she doesn't care anymore about fire hazards in her own life and everything, but it's just why 1,000 candles on the floor? Why not turn on a light? It's like everything is just set up to be a horror movie, and nothing's logical at all. And you find when we find the little girl with Christmas lights wrapped all around her, blinking green and red. She's like she's terrified. You know, she said scared of light, and then she walks around with this string of lights around her until she runs the length of runs out of cord. Why does nobody hit a light? I don't. That was driving me at the end. I was like
Well,
I'm about to lose my mind
get a
that somebody doesn't
flashlight,
have a light.
something. Like
I just I just
that was very that was a very
because
annoying part for me too.
I was not annoyed. I was not that annoyed through most of this movie, but the light thing, I was like, it's such a contrivance and all you had to really do to make me shut up about it was just give me a reason. Let the power be out for some reason, and
Yeah.
at least that's a little better. But you have to have some kind of light source because it's a movie. It just doesn't really work. It's the
Yeah.
easiest thing to beat ever. You just keep the lights on all the time.
And
I don't know.
there was one big thing for me that kind of I think would have been better if they would have done it differently. Uh, so the older daughter Sadie, they go back to school after a month after their mom died. They took a month off, I guess, and she has like one friend who's like nice to her, but her other friend group are just like these complete assholes for I don't know why
Oh my
she's a part
god.
of
Why
their
would you
friend
ever
group.
hang out with those people at all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially one of them, and it's like the one friend that is nice is like, "Hey, why don't we come over this weekend?" And if why not just you go over instead of these other three girls who are
Yeah,
complete
don't
dicks to
invite
this
those other
girl?
girls.
And I
Yeah.
feel like this definitely took away from the tension in the movie. Like they either should have just had the one girl come over or no girls and just done something different because they
Because
didn't add anything.
the one girl's like, she's like, oh, is that that's your mom's dress that you're wearing to school? Like your dead mom's dress? Are you sure that's a
Yeah.
good idea? Like, isn't that gonna make her harder to let go of or something? And she's like,
Oh,
well,
I don't
I'm
wanna.
just concerned about you. I'm just concerned about you, okay? And it's a
Right.
little, and maybe other people are a little creeped out by it.
Yeah. Just complete
It's like, dude.
asshole. And
And then
then
spills the stuff on, whatever.
yeah, she like dirties the dress and stuff. But at that
Laughs
sleepover
about it.
part, yeah, she's a fucking asshole. And
Hmm.
then so they have that sleepover and they're like, "Oh, show us where that guy died." And it's like at that point be like, Y'all can just fucking leave. Get out of here."
Yeah.
And she does it and they go in the closet. She gets locked in the closet. And they could have done that without those girls and I feel like it would have been better. Like maybe she was going to look in there for something of her mom's rather than being like, "Well, let's show these pieces of shit where this guy died. Who
Well, and also
cares?"
it might have been a little more like they could have had a little because they're trying to show this relationship with her and her actual friend that seems like she does feel bad for her and does care about her and stuff, and none of the other girls care about her, and the other girls even say like she's the only one that actually likes you. We're just
Yeah.
all but but they try to show a relationship there, and I thought they don't do a whole lot of that, so I thought they missed an opportunity to make it where it's just that girl that goes over there, like you said, and then you have that moment where the door closes and she thinks she's locked in there, and like being locked in there by her true friend, and maybe they have a fight about it, and they realize that there's something supernatural, like for sure there's something supernatural going on here because the door shut on its own, and
Mhm.
oh, and I did think the thing with the uh the thing with the tooth was maybe a little. No, it's not that interesting.
Nah.
It's kind of derivative of others, like the ring. We're pulling the hair
Yeah.
out of her throat on the ring from the or whatever from the phone. But yeah, the friend thing was the
I
girls coming over to the house for the yeah. It was just not.
it was unnecessary, and I feel like it took away from like any tension that like there could have been if there were fewer people there or something.
And I know a thing that you want to talk about is the fact that the dad, who is a therapist himself, is the worst person ever at processing his own emotions and grief and everything, and even being willing to help his daughters at all at processing it. And this is what he does for a living
It
every
that
day.
that was so annoying. Like I can get that he's upset about it too, but
He can't talk about it at
as
all.
yeah, and it's like as somebody who's a therapist who helps other people deal with their things, you think he would be willing to try to help his children talk about it, but
Nope.
like yeah, he starts talking to the older daughter, and he's like, oh, we can talk about anything. And she starts talking about the mom, and he's like, don't you have an appointment with Doctor So and So tomorrow? And she's like, well, yeah, I was trying to talk to you. Like,
Yeah,
dude,
you can tell
come
me
on.
anything you want, honey. What's bothering you? Well, it's just we don't really talk about mom's death much. Would you look at the time?
Yeah, it was so silly. And the other part about that is like he's in the house like every time they're in the house, and they're like screaming and freaking out in the hallway, and where the fuck is he? He's just not there, but he is.
Yeah, I didn't really notice it in that moment, but I was just and I know there is like not just a trope, like in real life there is kind of a commonly noted phenomena that is people who do such and such for a living, like ironically kind of don't have that thing straight in their own life. Like there was a guy that used to live on the road I lived in growing up, and he built houses for a living. But his house is never it was like never finished. Like notoriously for years and years and years and years, he's living in this unfinished house, like Tyvek on the outside of the house, like and that's what he does for a living.
Yeah,
Or like or the dentist with messed up teeth, or it's a common thing, but it just didn't feel like it kind of didn't feel authentic in this. Like, what kind of therapist? Your kids come to you and say more than one time. She comes to her dad and says, "I want to talk to you about this. This is something I'm trying to talk to you about." And he's just like, "Yeah, I think there's professionals for that." I mean, he doesn't really say it like this, but it's just like you can't handle it at all. You can't say anything to him, or at least vocalize the fact that you're struggling to be able to talk about
yeah,
this at all to anybody. And if we need to go together and the therapist is trying to get him to come with them, and it's part of the plot of the movie, but it was like a really frustrating plot of the movie that it also made it so I didn't feel like they fully utilized Chris Messina, who, like we were saying, is a good actor.
hmm
Yeah, I'm not saying he was bad in this, but like we don't get
he's got very
it's a
muted
net.
emotions in it. Like he,
It feels like how I was talking about the Evil Dead Rise. Like, I guess it's because everybody's dealing with grief and they're very numb to the world right now and everything. And maybe we're just watching a lot of movies where there's like a lot of grief and dead parents and stuff.
yeah,
But it just felt like, man, can you give it a little more weight to, or show a little more range? Not people that are even the most dead inside people can show like a range of emotion a little bit, or at least like different degrees of emotion. Get a little angry or get a little. He was just like numb.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah. That's about all I have to say about that movie. I think. I mean, at the end, it did seem like they were trying to set it up for a potential sequel, and if there is one, it's probably straight to
yeah,
DVD.
come on. Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
very end, it's like maybe it's in the closet of the like because it can imitate people's voices and you hear what we're supposed to assume was it imitating the voice of the therapist is saying like, hey, hang on, come back in here for just a second. I want to talk to you for just a sec. And then it's like, oh, the therapist didn't know doesn't know what she's talking about or why she's back in there. And there's the closet scene and whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about it like I hate it. I did not hate this movie. You could do worse. I just think it doesn't stand out against a landscape of the
Like,
horror that we have
yeah,
right now.
I agree.
So see it if you want to. Not for me. I'll go ahead and give this. I'll just say, five. If I could give it a 5.1, I'd give it a 5.1. It's a little bit better than average. And like I said, years ago, it would have stood out more. It's just not. It's doing a lot of things that other movies have done a little better. So,
hmm
nothing really to set it apart. And I'm assuming you're going lower than that.
Yeah, I'll probably give it like a 2. I think I told you like I thought about walking out of the movie at one point, and I was like, nope, I gotta finish it because we gotta talk about it. I was yawning the whole movie, checking my
It
phone
felt
to see
longer
what
than
time it
it was.
was.
It was only an hour and 39
Yeah,
minutes, I think. It did feel longer than that,
it
and
yeah
that's not a
like
very long movie.
no, and like I've said multiple times, it just felt like something I've seen before. It's been done, and people have done it better. But yeah, two, two for me.
All right. Well, the next video coming up is going to be we're reviewing a movie from 2021 called On the Count of Three. So if you want to watch that along with us, you're welcome to. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe, and also definitely comment below. Horror movies that maybe kind of sound like this and sound like they maybe did it better, or if you saw this movie, what did how did you feel about it?
Yeah, if you liked it, tell
Um,
me why I'm wrong that this movie isn't trash.
but yeah, and we'll take other horror movie suggestions too. I might have to take a break from horror for a
Yeah,
movie or two, but yeah, other horror movies that you recommend, anything like that, we're up for whatever. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
we'll see ya.